I want to start today's episode by reading you something. It is from this book, and the title of the book is The Illusion of Money. The Illusion of Money, and it is a book by Kyle Cease. I had the good fortune of seeing Kyle Cease perform live a couple of years ago, and he was incredible. He used to be a comedian, but he decided that his real calling in life was to spread the message. And part of what I'm going to read to you is the message that he's spreading, really this telling us the things that we need to know about why we're chasing the wrong things when it comes to our lives. And what he says, this is again from the book, The Illusion of Money. And he says, and I really love for you to pay attention to this. If you're looking for love from anywhere other than inside of you, then you're probably not looking for love. Most of us aren't looking for love from others. We're seeking approval, control, ownership, and attachment. You can never find love that you are missing inside of yourself in someone else. People can only truly love you at the level they love themselves. The more you do the inner work, the more you experience your own unconditional love. You won't need it from others. A person who truly loves you wants you to feel free. A person who truly loves you wants to have and experience the very best in life, even if it's not with them. True love expands, it frees, it releases, and it actually loves. You don't need anybody's love to be fully you. You are love. If you want love, the only place that you can get it is from you, from the universe, from nature, from inside. Everything else that you might be chasing is a distraction from the love that you are. And one of the things that I have learned, one of the most profound things that I have learned is that we live in a society that tells us that you'll be enough when, you'll feel worthy when, you will have love when. And we're constantly looking outside of ourselves. And what that leads to is us building a life on a shaky foundation. It's kind of like building a gorgeous house. You're building this beautiful 2-story mansion, and the foundation isn't solid. So it doesn't matter how much wallpaper you put up, doesn't matter how many gorgeous paintings you have, doesn't matter how amazing the chandeliers are in your house. If you don't have a solid foundation, then that house is going to crumble at the first sign of trouble. And so what is the foundation in our lives? It's self-love. It's feeling worthy. It's self-worth. Those are the foundations to whatever it is that you want, whether it is the house, the cars, the money, the relationships. Everything comes down to, how do you feel about you? What do you believe you are worthy of having? And one of the things that I have seen is that for many of us, we treat self-love as something secondary. We look for love, we look for fulfillment, we look for joy in all of the things outside of ourselves. And yet everything that you want is inside of you. I've talked many times about this book that I love, which is by Anita Moorjani. It's called Dying to Be Me. And in there she says, how can you give to somebody else what you cannot give to yourself? And so what we're doing is we're living a life where we're constantly trying to add content to our lives. Content in the sense of, I need a relationship, I need a job, I need money, I need all of this. And yet the context of our life, the context of us truly loving ourselves and knowing that whatever happens outside of ourselves, you will be okay. That's what we're lacking. You know, I shared this week on social media that if you do a Google search, you bring up the Google search bar and you put in a search and you type, how do I learn to? How do I learn to? Put in that search term. There's so many things that you'd imagine that people would want to learn how to do, right? Learn languages, how to do math, how to, build a house, how to grow a social media following, all of those things. How do I build a business? And I was so surprised the number one thing that comes up when you type in, how do I learn to, is how do I learn to love myself? We're turning to Google to help us figure out the most foundational, the most important question of our lives: loving ourselves. Because nothing else will succeed in your life. Nothing else will mean anything if you don't come from a place of the context of loving yourself. And something else that I find so interesting is that we're so able to make promises to other people. For those of you who are married or in relationships, you've made the promise to your significant other that I promise I'll love you. I promise I'll be faithful. We go to weddings and it's like, I promise, I vow. And yet, have you ever taken the time to make that promise to yourself? To vow to yourself what you are going to give yourself, to vow to yourself what you believe you are worthy of. We treat ourselves as secondary. And then we wonder why, come the 31st of December, at the end of every year, we're disappointed because we didn't fulfill our goals. We didn't meet the things that we wanted. That's because we're not operating from a context of truly loving ourselves, from a context of truly believing in ourselves, from a context of believing that we are worthy to be, to do, to have the very things that we want. We think that it's out there, that someone else has the answer, and yet the answer is inside of yourself. And so I want to challenge you is, coming into the year, I'm sure you had promises that not promises, you made goals, right? You had goals that you said, this year I'm going to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is. And you know what? You are treating those goals as if you're dating. You're treating those goals as if they're optional. And the reason is because you don't truly love yourself. Because if you truly loved yourself, you would know that treating yourself with honor and respect and believing in what you're worthy of is your act of self-love. And you would be committed to achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve. And so I want to ask you this year, instead of having goals, instead of having, oh yeah, if I hit those, that would be nice. What is it you're going to promise yourself? What is it that you're going to promise yourself for this year? Promise, a vow, a commitment to you. But none of that will have any meaning unless you first make a promise to yourself that you will love yourself, that you are deserving of your own love. You are worthy of your own love. Because everything else stems from you recognizing that you are worthy of your own self-love. And therefore, that is what will lead to your success. That is what will give meaning to everything else. That is the context that you need to set for this year. To be able to ask yourself in any moment and in every moment, what am I committed to? What have I promised myself? And to ask yourself the question, if I truly loved myself, what would I do? If I truly loved myself, what would I do? And so I want to challenge you. I want to set a piece of homework for you for today is I really want you to go back to your goals and look at your goals and look at them from the context of those goals being a commitment, not a maybe, nice to have, oh, if it happens, when it's convenient, if it's not too much hard work, if I don't have to get my hands messy. Re-look at your goals through the eyes of somebody who is making a commitment, who is making a promise. And then examine which of those goals that you've written down, I'm assuming you have goals, which of those goals that you've written down are you making a promise to yourself about? And one of those goals should be a promise about how you are going to love yourself. And then when you've really examined that, I'd love to invite you to stand in front of a mirror, and look at yourself, look yourself in the eyes, and tell yourself the promise that you are making. tell yourself the vow, the commitment that you are making for what this year is going to look like for you. I promise. I promise. I vow. I commit. The energy of saying those words, the energy of making a promise, a vow, a commitment is very different than I'll write this down and hey, if I get to the end of the year and I haven't achieved it, that's great. But something else that I want you to remember in whatever the vow is that you're making to yourself is that time should not be the factor that stops you from believing in that promise. Time should not be the reason. You get to the end of this year and you haven't achieved whatever it is that you wanted to achieve, but you've truly put in the work, you've truly put in the effort, you've truly showed up, you've truly been committed. Then it's for you to believe, to hold on to the belief that you are worthy of having whatever it is that you want. To show yourself the love that you know what, no matter what, I am committed to achieving this in my life. And to believing that it is not about whatever it is that you want showing up on time, that it has to show up by the 31st of December. It is not about it showing up in your time. It is believing that it will show up if you are committed, if you've made the promise to yourself, that it'll show up through time. That everything that you are doing, everything that you're doing to honor that commitment to love yourself, to be true to yourself and your dreams, it will come to you through time. So what is that promise? What is that vow? What is that commitment that you are making to yourself? I love you all. I am so grateful for you. And I will see you same time, same place next week. Mwah. So much love.